Kia ora, good morning. It is the Sabbath, and today is the day I sit with the Lord. All my chores are done, so I'm just going to sit with God and contemplate the week that has been. And like every other week that has been since Christmas time, my God, what a week it has been. I've found out so much in the last few hours that I don't know how to feel about it. I'm emotional, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm disappointed, I'm pushed into a corner now where I have no choice but to fight harder. I'm on the attack because the stuff that I found out has pushed me beyond breaking point. And now I have the resolve to fight back harder than I've ever fought before because the stuff I found out is so shameful and filthy and dirty and disgusting that I have no choice but to fight back. But in fighting back, this is no longer about everything they've done to me and everything that they're trying to do to veterans and the King and Vladimir Putin and the taxpayer and the voter and the children and the business owners and the farmers and all of it. I I I don't know. Well, I was going to say, I don't know why I was born with this inherent need to defend the pure and innocent, but it's literally in my blood. It's why I was chosen. It's why my ancestors chose me to be the one to fight to be in God's favour. It's why my ancestors chose me to carry the burden of this responsibility because people don't know what's going on because of people like Keir Starmer and Elon Musk and Zuckerberg and von der Leyen suppressing information that gets out there. It's why I had to, desperate times call for desperate measures, like I said yesterday. It's why I had to try and break through the glass ceiling in order to reach the king's ears and appeal to the ICC in that, because the stuff that is going on now is beyond criminal. It's just pure evil. So what did I find out in the last few hours? I found out that the fraud investigation that's been going on with Donald Trump for over the last year involves exact instances that happened to me. Everything that him and his minions have been doing in this fraud case, they did to me. A whistleblower has come forward with evidence that caused such outrage in the courts that 14 arrests were immediately ordered. And when I listened to the fraud case and the things that this whistleblower had been talking about and the way they were being threatened and how they were being threatened and what was being done to them because of the information they held, it was identical to what they did to me when I started whistleblowing back in 2016-17, right up until now, this very day, because it's still ongoing, because they're still intimidating the people in my life. They've made sure that all my support networks have vanished. They've threatened my children. They've threatened my family, my income, my living situation, my freedoms. Everything that this whistleblower talked about is everything Donald Trump and Elon Musk and all of them, Keir Starmer, all of them have done to me. Identical. So then it kind of gave me hope because I thought, well, now I can use that against them when I take them all to court for what happened to me. Although I say I take them all to court, I know there's already a legal case going on, and I know I'm going to win, so I'm not worried. But by me finding all of this out and then publishing it, making it public to people like the King, it proves I was telling the truth the entire time. That me losing my family, me losing my friends, me losing the love of my life, losing my children, losing my intellectual properties, they stole from me. They stole my product ideas, they stole my books, they stole my movies, and suppressed my social media and that because they didn't want anything I was creating or doing getting out. They wanted it for themselves, but they knew that if people started listening to me, they will all end up in prison. Because, as I just said, I'm here to protect the pure and innocent, and that includes people like the King and Vladimir Putin, because they are innocent in all the things that they're being accused of. But I'm also here, I'm not here to whistleblow on, the person down the street. I'm here to whistleblow. I'm here to collect the bounties of the elites. My bloodline fights the Illuminati to protect the innocent. I was chosen for that. My ancestors chose me for that. So then, I found out that everything that I've been put through is identical to what the whistleblower was talking about. Deleting evidence, how I've been talking about posts going missing, talking about being hacked. Everything's been hacked. My email, I was stopped from getting refunds from Deliveroo, none of it made sense. All that sort of thing. Everything that has happened to me, this whistleblower talked about in this case that's been going on with Donald Trump for the last year. I was right about everything. And when I do have the opportunity to present, because I kind of feel like at this point, because I know that there's a case going on behind closed doors, I feel like the King and Vladimir Putin and the ICC are my judges. That when I'm posting and presenting my evidence, they are my judges. And the fact that the King seems to be waking up to what I've been saying, I'm being found innocent. I'm being believed by the people that I need to be believed by, because these are the people that have the power to make the changes necessary in order to free the world. And I've been highlighting things to them that they didn't know was going on behind closed doors, because I'm the only one that can do it. I'm the only occult physicist. I'm the only one that has the ability to manipulate time to manifest reality, which basically means I have the ability to manipulate time in order to reveal the truth to people in a way that can't be denied. And I am constantly under threat. Every day I'm threatened with, we're about to take your money, and if you don't jump through our hoops, you're going to lose your flat, you're going to lose everything. And then I found out and I'm trying not to get emotional, that a veteran died on the streets. A veteran of the Falklands died on the street, homeless. He'd been made homeless while Starmer and his government were drinking 180 quid bottles of champagne at the Savoy. Let them eat cake. That's what I had said to the King in the beginning. One of the reasons why Elon Musk shut my Twitter down for 12 hours, because he said I was inciting violence. Because I said to the King, they will Louis the 15th you if you don't act. what was done to Louis XV will be done to you, because Starmer's going to go out of his way to make sure that the monarchy is abolished, and then the people will hold the monarchy accountable for the failings of the government, just like they did with Louis XV. And he said, I said that would be an execution of their, like a public execution, meaning of his reputation. And he tried to say I was inciting violence. And then he goes on X and talks about how there's going to be a civil war in England at some point. It's just a matter of time because it's all planned. But I said, so what? He's allowed to incite violence, but I'm not. One rule for me, one rule for thee. It is a pointed, targeted attack on me personally, because I'm starting to get to people. I'm starting to reach people. And this thing with the veteran, the whole reason why I got into going after the elites back in 2016-17 is because I was being approached by veterans and serving members of the American Army and Air Force who were coming to me with information because they were struggling with severe PTSD, with severe mental health issues, because they were seeing things, witnessing things, and had access to information that their conscience was eating them alive, and it was causing them to want to do things to remove their pain away permanently. They were experiencing paranormal activity, they were experiencing like dissension psychosis, poltergeist activity, all sorts, even like literally on the battlefield, and these boys were coming back and using their call time and that to contact me, and I'd be emailing them and, talking back and forth and talking to them on Skype and places like that to help them survive Afghanistan and what they'd witnessed in Iraq, and the things they were telling me and the information I was being privy to. And I said I probably couldn't remember all of their names now anyway, and all my stuff got deleted and destroyed in that anyway, so I have no record other than one tank commander from Iraq, I think, because they deleted everything. It all got removed when they started trying to shut my life down in 2017. And the things they were telling me were things that I couldn't keep to myself. And as I was developing quantum magnetics and I was starting to see things and posting things on my WordPress and that's when they started delving into the whole Hillary Clinton frazzled rip thing, and the murmurings of Jeffrey Epstein and Rachel Chandler, and all of that started coming out. That's when they shut me down. So them doing what they did to my Instagram, I'm used to it. I got the important stuff. The only thing I can't get is my conversations with my baby girl before she died. So my father was in the New Zealand Royal Engineers, the New Zealand Army Royal Engineers 2-5 support in the territorials and the regulars for a total of 34 years. So he would be a veteran. I have his medals, I have his army badges, I have his dog tags, and even though I absolutely will not let my boys join the military, and they know that, I am very proud of my father and the years that he served in the Queen's Army, as was he, and I am very, very protective of veterans because of the work that I've done with them in the past and serving members, I know the damage that has been created by those who sit in power on the highest levels of corruption, who send them to war and put them through it. So I'm protective, just like Queen Elizabeth. She loves her veterans. And I feel like I've been dragged into something going on in Great Britain on behalf of Queen Elizabeth, because someone who cares enough to do something needs to be put in the position to present themselves to the king, to say, you need to help me, we need to work together, we need to fix this. I had people from the FBI, CIA, NYPD, Border Patrol coming to me with severe trauma, severe deep psychological issues, for the things that they were witnessing and having to hold on to and keep their mouth shut about when it came to child trafficking. And I carried that burden with me for years. And one of the reasons why my marriage ended to Martin when he was locked up in prison is because he got jealous of the work that I was doing with these American men and women in the military and law enforcement. And he gave me an ultimatum and said, it's either them or him. And I stupidly chose him. I was like, if you're not, because he was my husband, and you listen to your husband, you're supposed to, and I thought, well, if it's upsetting him, because he got so angry and so jealous at the work I was doing, he got into a fight and got locked in the box. He got 3 months in the box. And yeah, just before he hung up and got into the fight and got locked up, he gave me the ultimatum and I stupidly chose him. And then ironically, he left me for a child groomer and a paedophile. And the paedophile who tried to kiss my son was in the Air Force, the US Air Force. And it's one of the biggest mistakes of my life. I should have just said to him, bye, Felicia. I'm so protective of veterans that I had even said to Vladimir Putin, if you give me a visa to Russia, I'll make a pledge, because I was watching, I can't remember what it was I was watching, whether it was on X or YouTube. It might have been YouTube. I think it might have been YouTube on one of his, fan channels. And it was him going around one of the veterans hospitals meeting guys who were recovering on the battlefield. And I said to him, if you give me a visa so I can come and build my school in Russia, I will make a pledge to you that all the jobs that I need to fill from start to finish, from building the school to helping me run the school, will be offered to the veterans first. And I will keep that pledge to any country that it will let me build a school there, including the United Kingdom. All my jobs will be offered to veterans first, because they're the ones who are being punished like the pensioners are. And most of the pensioners are veterans. And I feel protective of them, because that would have been my dad. My dad, if he was alive, would be a veteran and a pensioner. He never lived long enough to be a pensioner. He died when he was 59. He got malaria when he was in the Solomon Islands, when they were having a civil war in the Solomon Islands, and they sent the New Zealand Army over. I was told he was building roads and giving them access to water, but then I found out stuff later on. I don't even know. I found out stuff about my dad that just doesn't make any sense. He got malaria, and then he had to have vaccines, and his heart basically, they tried to say it was, he had a fatty heart, myocardiopathy or something, but I'm utterly convinced that it was the vaccines that got him, because the malaria vaccine does destroy your heart. But they said it was genetic, but whatever. The thing is, when I heard about the veteran that died in the doorway of Tesco's while they were drinking champagne at the Savoy, and that he was from the Falklands, it upset me, because when I was a little girl, my father came in to me and my sister one day and he said, "I'm going to have visitors, and you are not to come into the dining room until they're gone." And of course, I was a kid and I was nosy, so when these men turned up, they were all wearing military uniforms, and they had rows of badges and stuff on them that I'd never seen before, because my dad was a grunt. He passed down so many promotions, because he should have been like a brigadier or something, but his highest promotion was warrant officer, WO2. And they kept putting him up for promotion, and he kept saying no, because he said, I asked him before he died, just 6 months before he died, how come you never accepted those promotions? And he said, because I was born a grunt, I'll die a grunt. He felt like if he rose above those ranks, he would be leaving his boys behind, and his boys were everything to him. Two of my brother-in-laws were under his command, and he loved serving in the Queen's Army. He was proud of it. So when these men turned up in these uniforms that I'd never seen before, wearing all these badges and stuff, it piqued my curiosity. And I peeked through the sliding doors. They didn't know I was there because they all had their backs turned to the door, and I peeked through the French sliding doors and I saw they were looking at a map of the Falklands Islands. And New Zealand wasn't involved in the Falklands. Prince Andrew was there, fighting in the Falklands. I knew Britain was involved, but New Zealand wasn't involved in the Falklands, and I cannot for the life of me figure out why my father was standing there talking to men in different coloured uniforms, looking at a map of the Falklands Islands and telephone lines. I just remember seeing telephone lines on the map. They were marked out. They were there for it felt like about 6 hours, but it was probably only maybe about an hour or two, and then they left. And I have never ever to this day found out why they came to my dad in regards to the Falklands Islands. Gabriel and I, my boy and I, have spent a long time trying to figure it out, and I may never know. Why did my father, when he was buried, have a flyover from Ohakea Air Base when he was in the army? He got a gun salute, they lowered the flag and all of that, and he wasn't in the army anymore, and yet he had busloads of people, busloads of soldiers. Some of them didn't even know who my dad was, but they turned up to pay their respects based on the reputation that my father had in the army. And I don't know if this is true or not, but my Auntie Marion came back after Dad's funeral and that, like a couple of weeks after, and she said that she had been told that my dad's name was on the memorial board, fallen soldiers, that he was on a memorial, and he was the first soldier to be on the memorial who hadn't died during active service. And if that's true, it's like, why? He passed the SAS test twice. He passed the SAS test twice. Do you know how many people go for that test and fail? There's more people that fail than people who pass. And he passed it twice. And then he never joined, and we don't know why. So my dad was entrusted with things by the New Zealand Army, by the New Zealand military, that his reputation as such for being a man of honour was such that my sister Erin and I are exceptionally protective of men in the military because of our dad. She is a palliative care nurse, so she works with a lot of, veterans and that. And when I heard about that veteran, I felt like my heart had just shattered. Because I know that when these boys go and you fight for their country and stuff, they do it with honour and valour in a way where their pride either keeps them alive or buries them with the kind of respect that nobody else on earth will die having from every other person on earth. Veterans and soldiers in the military automatically get the respect of everybody else on earth without question because of their level of valour and honour, and my dad is one of them. And my boys, I always refer to them as my boys, were also some of them, and I know some of them that are still alive are still affected by it, turned to drugs, turned to alcohol, ended up in abusive relationships and all of that sort of thing, until they came to me. I know that the last bit of information I got from one of them a few years ago was he was doing the 12-step program. I don't know what's happened to the rest of them. This is going back a few years now because I lost contact with them all, and I always said that I would rather go to prison than give up any of their names. And I have gone to prison. It was just not a criminal prison. It was a mental health institution because they decided that everything I was doing, everything I was fighting for, which was eventually going to be presented as my own case in front of the King and the ICC and Vladimir Putin to help get justice, not just for my situation, but for the situation I found the King and Vladimir Putin in as well. They were hell-bent on making sure none of it got out, which is why this fraud case against Donald Trump is so pivotal in me fighting for justice with what happened to me, because it proves now that I was telling the truth about everything. And I lost everything standing in my truth, standing in my conviction that I knew what was being done to me was being done by Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton and the British government and the police. And, the whistleblower was talking about how the police were paid off and threatened and blackmailed to delete evidence, to ignore investigations, to ignore evidence, which is what happened to me. They were being intimidated by the police, by the Secret Service. They were threatening this person's children, sending them photos and images and information about their kids, to imply that, we're watching your kids, we know where your kids are, we know what your kids are doing. If you don't play by the rules, we're coming after your kids. That's what happened to me, including their own father. Their own father did it too. He threatened me with our own children. When he called the police on me that day and said that I was running around the house with the knives and stuff, he wasn't just calling the police on me, he was calling the police on his own son. But I did what I had to do to protect my son, because he didn't care. He just was so determined to protect himself and his reputation and the money and the promises in his 30 pieces of silver. He was fully prepared to throw his own son under the bus in order to protect his own skin, and then played innocent afterwards. He played innocence of drinking the blood of his own children and the mother of his children in order to protect his own skin. His saggy, greasy, oily, wrinkly skin. So I'd been saying to the King and to Rand Paul and Thomas Massey since I started doing that Super Bowl investigation, we need to be doing forensic audits on Donald Trump and von der Leyen and Keir Starmer and that. I said because they're laundering money, they're hiding money. And then I find out that, Keir Starmer, he's basically been told to resign because he's been caught taking £124,000 from one person. He's got 40 million hiding. Well, he's worth 14 million. He's got 40 million hiding in various bank accounts, in Jersey and the Isle of Man, which is exactly what the Queen had said. And I was saying, just in the post when I found out, I wonder if I'd have the support of the people if we demanded that Starmer and his MPs were forensically audited. And then I found out that that's exactly what's happening, that he is being forensically audited at the same time as Trump. I find it so interesting. The other thing is that Trump has lost Mar-a-Lago, and he's losing Trump Towers. There was questions about whether he'd lose Trump Towers, but he is. There's been a court order to remove Trump Towers. So in them trying to make me homeless, he is now losing his homes. And them threatening to take 300-400 quid a month off me, they're now losing their hundreds of thousands and millions. Trump's losing billions, but Starmer's losing millions, because it turns out when they forensically audited him, he's got quite a few offshore bank accounts, and he was caught taking donations from people in order to do favours for them. They were donating money to his campaign, and he was promising to do things for them, bring in laws and hurt the establishment, like the monarchy, in order to get these donations. And then he was taking those donations and hiding them in offshore bank accounts. So he's not only, done the people dirty, the electorate dirty, but he's also ripped the king off, because when you hide money in offshore bank accounts to avoid paying tax, the king doesn't get his share of the cut. I used to think it was bullshit that the taxpayer that a lot of taxes went to the king, until all of this happened and I realised that the king is the only thing standing between world enslavement and world peace. For Great Britain and the Commonwealth, the king is the only things standing between us becoming the next Jews in World War II and us getting heaven on earth. And now it's like, give him whatever that man wants. The thing is that Keir Starmer's trying to remove the King's legal powers. So now the only thing left to do is to fight. I'm on the brink of losing everything. And I'll do whatever I have to do to fight, because somebody has to get that veteran that died in the doorway of Tesco's justice. If I have to borrow money off my sister to get a flight back home, so be it. But I'm sitting here on the Sabbath talking to the Lord, saying, give me strength. And he's saying, you've already got it. You just need to move it forward now, because the fight that I have on my hands isn't just a fight for my freedom and for my civil liberties and for my human rights. It's to fight for everybody else in Great Britain's as well. And if I have to stand between Keir Starmer's government and every veteran that Great Britain has, then I'll do it. Because I said I would rather die standing than live on my knees. I will not bow down to the slave masters. I will not bow down to Keir Starmer and his fake FBI. They're bringing in the British version of the FBI, which is, Peter Thiel and all of that, with their facial recognition surveillance and all of that to tackle terrorism, which it isn't. It's to threaten the people. So they brought in the Gestapo. And I said to the King, I wonder if they'll investigate this video that Kevin Spacey made of Ed Miliband and Keir Starmer abusing girls and trans kids. Because that'll be a test of how committed they are to serving the law. I wonder if they'll investigate the coup to overthrow the monarchy. Because the law is bound by oath to protect the king and country, not the government. So if they don't investigate the coup, with Keir Starmer going to the king and threatening him directly to his face twice now, that's high treason. That is against the law. Will they arrest him? Or are they going to come after me because I posted something that exposes what they're doing behind closed doors? Because I think we know the answer to that one. So it's like, bring it on. Okay, whatever. If this is the fight I need to fight for the greater good of Great Britain and the King and Vladimir Putin and Ukraine and the EU and that, then bring it on. I'll build me an army. I'm an orator. I was on the debating team at school. I don't like talking in public. It makes me nervous, but if it needs to be done, it will be done. I don't think I will have any trouble rallying the troops if push comes to shove. I will stand on my soapbox in my little homeless encampment and I will rally the troops. I will gather them together, because most of the people that are on the street now aren't drug addicts and alcoholics. They're veterans. They're people who worked for the councils and put food on our shelves. It's the people that helped make Great Britain everything that it is today who are now out on the streets. And I don't think it would take me long to build an army. God's army on earth. I don't think it would take me long. And then if I have to beg and borrow to register myself as an MP or, whatever, I'll do whatever I have to do now, because hearing that story and knowing that I was telling the truth about everything I said the American and British government had been putting me through was true. It's given me a backbone that is now a rod of iron, and I will not bow or bend for no one other than God and my King. So I just find it fascinating that everything that's happening to Donald Trump is happening to Keir Starmer. Courts, their members of their own political parties are calling for their resignation, and they're refusing to resign. They're refusing to back down. So then they will be forcibly removed. They've been threatened with being forcibly removed. Keir Starmer was forcibly removed. He's getting angrier and angrier and angrier, and he's becoming volatile. He's not only threatened the king, he's now threatened the future king. When Prince William had a go at him about the homeless situation. See, if I was Prime Minister, once I got rid of all the illegals, housing priority would be going to the veterans and the homeless, especially if they had children. And then because I would be pulling back all our military support, all the money that we'd be saving not getting involved in other countries' nonsense in order to hide the fact they just want to steal minerals and children and organs, I would be putting back into the country, and all these derelict houses and rundown neighbourhoods and ghost towns and that, I would be pouring all the money back into housing, which would then create jobs, because then I'd be giving all the veterans jobs, because I'd be needing people to help me like rebuild these houses and do them up and make them livable and clean up the streets and, you know, make it all livable. Open up the streets, open up the businesses, get the towns buzzing again. I'd have Great Britain being the envy of the world for tourism. Absolutely. I could do the same thing for Russia and Ukraine and that too. Just through my veterans program, which I'm calling the George Callaghan Trust, after my dad. And I have a Men of Valor range, a Men of Valor product range that I was just starting to work on before my ex did what he did. And I I want to do a range of products called, I had suggested to Vladdy Bee. The brand would be called Vladdy Bee, and it was all the products that I wouldn't be making using honey, because my name, Debbie, in Hebrew means bee, honey bee, queen bee, depending on how you want to look at it, but bee. Some interpretations say honey bee, some say queen bee, but it's bee. I'm bee of the meadow, and he's so Vladdy bee. So I said to him, let's team up together and use my products that only use honey, like have an exclusive range of high class, good quality products, where the key ingredient was honey, because then we'd be able to have like honeybee farms and plant flowers and that to help pollinate. And then the proceeds would go to the George Callaghan Trust, which would pay for burials and headstones for veterans because that's a real problem. The amount of veterans and soldiers who are buried in unmarked graves because their families or because they were homeless, they couldn't afford burials, and that just breaks my heart. So I would bury them on the grounds of my school. We'd have like a bit that was for them to be buried, where they'd be buried with dignity and they'd be remembered and they'd be honoured. And that would be through the George Callaghan Trust. I also wanted to do a range of sugarless and vegetarian products, vegetarian friendly products, for the King as well, to do the same, to put the money towards helping the veterans. Everybody deserves a decent burial if they've served their country, whether through law enforcement, military, or because they gave birth to children who, when I gave Great Britain two incredible sons who I know are going to go a long way in the future in whatever it is they decide to do, but it won't be in the military because if I was Prime Minister, my military would be used for protecting our waters and our skies and our lands. I would be using my military. See, I'd have to strip the police force right back because so many of them are corrupt. So many of them have done bad things for Keir Starmer that I'd get rid of, and to me, people like me as well, that I would have to strip the police force right back until I was able to get the good ones who resigned because they lost faith in the government, they lost faith in the law, and recruited the ones who were committed to keeping the streets safe from injustices, both foreign and domestic. So I would then have the army standing in for the police until I was able to recruit people who were dedicated to serving their king and country. I'd be the Prime Minister that would be ensuring and demanding total loyalty and allegiance to the king and country before anybody else. Because I'd be getting justice and my lawsuit money, I wouldn't even take a prime ministerial wage. I just want to clean up the streets of corruption and evil. I would have the the Secret Service investigating human trafficking rings and grooming gangs, going undercover and that to catch them all out. These online predators that target people like my son, who went after my son on the PlayStation. I've got evidence of it. He said he knew my dad. He said to Gabriel, "I know your dad." And he panicked and he said, "I don't know what to do." I said, "Block him." So I'd be using the Secret Service for that, making sure that nobody posed a threat to the king that they are supposed to be protecting, but they're not. They're causing trouble in Russia and blaming Russia for things that they're not responsible for. They're helping Keir Starmer take the monarchy down, and I find that so offensive. I don't like weakness. I don't, I can't stand weakness in people. Weakness being, people who don't admit when they've done something wrong, like Keir Starmer, like the evidence is overwhelming, but they refuse to admit they've done anything wrong. That's weakness. I can't stand that. Cowardice is weakness. And people who, they're not people who are true to their word. I'm one of these people. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it. I keep my promises. I don't like breaking promises. I feel my conscience. I get riddled with guilt if I say I'm going to do something and then I don't do it. I was going to say I'm a man of my word. I'm a woman of my word. And so, people who say they're going to do something and don't do it, that's weakness. I don't like that. Actions speak louder than words for me. People who throw stones and hide hands. It wasn't me. I didn't do it. Instead of just saying, yeah, it was, I did do that. I did say that, like I do when I've been, had to purify myself and cleanse myself, and I've been confronted with things. I've had to admit, yeah, I did do that to clear my conscience, because I want to die with a clean soul. People who make excuses, lazy people. I have absolutely no problem with working. I just need to be able to find a job where I can work around my disabilities, my pain, radio, writing, all of that. You know, when I get to build my foundation, I'm going to have everybody else running everything, and then I can just stay at home looking after my family, writing, doing my radio shows, being creative, but I get to do it around my pain levels because I'm allergic to pain relief and I have no access to any other kind of pain. Have access to any other kind of pain relief. I have to be able to work around whether I can have a lay down, sit with my hot water bottle, recline, that sort of thing. Otherwise, I can't wait to be independent and get on my feet. The trouble is, even getting a job here, while Starmer's government are in power, they're going after the taxpayer as hard as they're going after the homeless people. They're saying if you don't get a job, if you don't prove you're looking for work, they'll cut your benefits, but there's no jobs. They made sure of that. They've outsourced all their industry. The only businesses that are signed up here now are all the ones that are helping them take the people down, like the FBI, the British FBI, and AI surveillance and all of that. They're the only ones that have been coming here to get their contracts with the government. Every other business is shutting down. They've made sure that they destroy the job market so that when they came in to threaten people's livelihoods and incomes, they would be kicked out on the street and losing their money regardless. If there's 20 jobs advertised at the job centre and there's 1 million people in that area looking for a job, and then those people who don't get the job can't prove that they're not looking for work, and that's 1 million people that are going to be out on the street minus 20 people, because it's all done by design. And then what they've done is they then go around with all their buddies buying up all the houses. Keir Starmer has made it illegal for you to buy a house now. Nobody has the money to buy one anyway, because they want to make people homeless. And then what they'll do is they'll say, well, we'll build camps for you to live in, because then at least you'll be off the street. We'll do that. Concentration camps. They are literally building Nazi Germany in Great Britain, and this is why the Queen is so angry, and why she came to me in those codes, and she keeps pushing me and pushing me and pushing me to fight, because now they're threatening to remove the homes and livelihood of her own children, and without the royal family, we're screwed. Which is why, as Prime Minister, I would not have a problem with the King taking a cut of our taxes. I'd be giving him more opportunities to make money, because I'd be opening up the mines and oil rigs and textile factories and stuff again. It's just, I had a dream. It was just a very quick dream. And I was thinking about it while I was making a coffee, and I was trying not to get upset about that Falklands veteran. But all the dream was is that I was standing in London. I don't know the street. I think it's where they used to have those famous outdoor markets. But it was like a ghost town. And I could hear wailing and mournful sounds of London mourning its own death. And it reminded me of A Christmas Carol, when the ghost of, when Jacob Marley comes to Ebenezer Scrooge, and he's got the chains on him, and he's weighed down by the chains, and he opens up the window, and he sees, and Ebenezer sees all the souls rising to the ethers, and they're all being weighed down by chains. and Jacob Marley was talking about his regrets, and every link in his chain is basically like a sin that he's had to bear in the afterlife, and he's coming to Ebenezer to wake him up so that he can release himself of the chains when he dies. And it reminded me of that, the mourning and the weeping and the sorrow that I could feel coming from the streets of London where these markets used to be. It just reminded me of that scene. And the ground started shaking. And I was just about to become scared because I thought the earthquake is coming, and I'm going to go. This is it. I'm done. And the cobbles were rattling like a wave, and I was going up and down on this wave of the cobbles as it was moving like a wave. And I turned around and I could hear this, like, I don't know. You don't have a lot of really big earthquakes here, but I'm from New Zealand, so with earthquakes, like with real earthquakes, you hear them before you see them. It always starts with like a low rumbling, and then things will start slowly moving, and then it gets harder and harder. And when I turned around to see where the rumbling was coming from, the road, the cobbled streets, turned into flowers, and I was picked up by this wave of cobbles that had turned into a sea of flowers. There were roses, there were carnations, there were daffodils, sweet williams, bluebells, all sorts. And it picked me up, and I went surfing through the streets of London on a wave of flowers that stretched so as far as the eye could see. And it reminded me of the dream that I had, that I posted on my channel. I'll put a link in the description box. Rabbits, vampires, and lambs. And I talk about how there was a knock at the door. I opened the door. There was a flash of light. I landed in an aeroplane and was taken in a car that had American flags on it. And I was being driven down the streets of what looked like New York or Boston or something. But having said that, it could have very easily have been the United Kingdom, because Massachusetts and that is all part of the original 13 states that the colonists founded when they left Great Britain to colonise America, which then takes me to my dream, no taxation without representation. And when I was in the diplomat's car with the flags on it, I went to get, as we were driving down the street, all the buildings started being covered in flowers. And I was about to get out of the car, and these vampires opened the car door and tried to attack me, but it slammed shut because all these white animals came out of nowhere and completely tore these vampires apart. Like they were pure white animals, and they were covered in blood. There was like lambs and tigers and doves and rabbits. All the animals that could be white were there, and they tore these vampires apart, and their pure white skin was covered in blood. And then the car door opened, and this little boy opened the car door, and he had a bunch of flowers, and he said to me, "It's safe for you to come out now." And he took my hand, and I hopped out of the car, and I walked down this red carpet into this building, and my boys and all these people I didn't know were standing there. There was all this food. There was a party going on. There was Quantum Menace posters. And I just remember this man came running over to me, and he said, "Welcome home." and he kissed me, and then I heard a baby crying. So the man that kissed me was like baby daddy. And it kind of reminded me of that, the sea of flowers. You couldn't see the buildings for the flowers. And we are almost in spring. So I'm being told to get ready for something. And that something I've done or something I'm going to be a part of is going to bring sweeping changes to the financial capital of Great Britain, to America, I don't know, to the King, I don't know. I was in London, it was definitely London, those famous markets. But the flowers, the sea of flowers represents spring, and spring is, the birth of a new year. It's rebirth. It's everything being reincarnated. It's everything that's been dormant coming to fruition. Everything hidden under the soil, breaking through the soil, and symbolizing the resurrection of life, which is why we have Easter in springtime. Here, it's autumn in New Zealand because we reverse weather. Our December, January, February in New Zealand is summer. So whenever I think of Easter, well, whenever I used to think of Easter, it was always an autumn setting for me. But now that I've lived in the UK for 25 and a half years, it's springtime. And spring and Easter for me is the resurrection of Christ. So I went to sleep upset, worried about the veterans and what was going to happen to the King and the people of Great Britain and everything that had been done to me now coming to the surface, the truth being brought to the surface. And then I had that dream, and that's pretty much what it means, that everything that has been hidden is now coming to the surface. It's all breaking ground. The truth has been seen, and it's going to create a wave of change that brings about the rebirth of nations, especially England, which will then pave the way for the resurrection of Christ, which is what the Holy Trinity is here for. The King Vladimir Putin and I, we're supposed to join forces. We're supposed to band together to ensure the second coming, which is what they've all been trying to stop, which is why they've been so hard at targeting Vladimir Putin, the King and I, so hardcore, because they know that we are together the King, they know that together we are the keys to that unlock the new world. And I know for a fact that when we secure the safety of Great Britain and Russia, when the two of them can band together and stick together and stand together in that, and I do what I need to do in order to keep them safe and awake and aware and protected while trying to clear my name, when other nations see what we've created, and the nations, when we take back our nations and take back our control, and the King and Vladimir Putin can retrieve everything that was stolen from them, other nations will follow suit. We want to be just like that. Why can't we be like that? How come they're doing that but we can't? And then other nations will end up leaving the EU and not listening to the US and not falling for the Illuminati bullshit anymore, and they'll all become independent nations. where they will no longer be told what to do by anyone other than the people that they elect to run their countries, who will follow the same oaths as the ones that I would be making law if I was Prime Minister, which is People Before Parliament law and the Transparency Act. The People Before Parliament law would be a law that can't be changed by anyone after King Charles and I, where you would be legally bound to take the oath that you put the king and put the best interests of the king and the country before yourself and outside investors, foreign lands and outside investors. It would be legally binding. It'd be a legally binding part of the election law and a legal part of the oath that you would be bound by law to uphold, which means that anybody who got into politics after me would only be getting into politics because they believed that they could help make Britain better, which would be quite the feat, because I think if I was Prime Minister, I'd turn it into quite the admirable empire. I think I would make Great Britain the envy of many nations, but I'd work with Russia as well because I really, really want to build a school there. I'd like to try and build one in Australia too if I can, and America, Canada, all sorts of places. Burkina Faso, I'd love to build one there. Oh my God. Yeah, I've got a whole list of places I'd love to build schools. Italy. I can't build anywhere that is on the board of peace. So yeah, just when it comes to veterans and that, my history with veterans goes back long and far. My Uncle Nig was in the Māori battalion. I think he was. Well, I mean, he told me he was. I I had always been raised to believe he was in the Māori battalion, but whether he was or wasn't, he served in World War Two. So my Uncle Harry Callaghan, was one of New Zealand's top-ranking police officers who died in the 60s. His death made the newspapers because he was such a respected homicide detective. My cousin Michael was in the New Zealand Police Force and he did wonderful things for the Māori youth. So the military and law enforcement and that, it's in my blood. I never thought in a million years, a couple of years ago, that I would be risking life and limb to stand between our government and our king. I was ready to just take my money, pack my bags and go. But God and the Queen had other plans. I'm not going to fight it anymore. Whatever's meant to be for me will be for me. If I have to stay here a little bit longer, then it's what I have to do. I just know that what my dreams are saying is that I'm still going to get to build my schools. I'm still going to get what I want. It's going to be possible for me to do what I need to do here and build my schools, if that's the plan. So I'm not going to fight it anymore. I'm free falling. I'm taking the leap of faith. And instead of trying to control where I go, I'm just giving it over to God and saying, Jesus, take the wheel. Which is also a dream that I had, where I was flying. I was the gold dragon and I was flying with the blue dragon and the volcano was erupting and the lava was coming for people. And no, it wasn't. Sorry, I apologise. I had a dream where I was told I was needed in Malaysia or something. And but I said, Jesus, take the wheel, because I didn't believe in it back then. And I'm not religious and I'm not a Christian. I have no religion. I don't believe in religion. God doesn't believe in religion. Religion isn't anywhere near as important as faith. Faith shouldn't come with a label. Faith isn't a club. It's a way of life, not an indoctrination. So I'll put a link in the description box for that vampire dream, but yeah, a sea of flowers, a wave of flowers. It reminds me of my Alu Akbar dream, but it was a wave of gold coins. So yeah, I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to try and control the outcome of where I'm supposed to go. I'm just taking a free fall, taking my leap of faith, and I'm going to see where I land, because it's obvious I'm not in control of this. But the one good thing that has come out of all of this is that the man of my dreams, the love of my life, we're still standing strong, even though we've been torn apart and ripped to shreds on so many occasions due to the interference of other people. Our bond has remained. We have still kept that thread. It's still there. So, and the king's waking up. And people are starting to see now that I was telling the truth the whole time. So I'm just waiting for justice. It's just, I think, in order for people to see that I was telling the truth the whole time, the truth about Donald Trump and Keir Starmer and Elon Musk, and that their masks needed to be ripped off first, for them people to go, oh my God, she was telling the truth. She got no support, she got no backing, she had no one fighting in her corner other than one sister. She had to do that all on her own, and she was telling the truth the whole time. But it's like, I'm one of these people, it's like, let's just not dwell on it. I'm not looking for pity, I'm looking for justice. And I just keep moving. I've just stood in my supernatural power in order to be able to brush it off me and move past it, water off a duck's back. My life has gone exactly the way God needed it to go in order for me to be and do what it is He needs me to be and do. I got the life and the lessons I deserved. So I'm so grateful that my faith and my ability in physics was such that I was able to put myself in a energetic, emotional, mental, protective bubble, because anybody else who gets put through that situation ends up fearing for their life. They end up turning to unhealthy behaviours in order to deal with the stress and anxiety, whereas my faith has been my energy shield. And my faith I hold in the palm of my hand in the form of quantum magnetics, because quantum magnetics is the physics that gives you the mind of God, gives you the power to tap into the mind of God. And when you can tap into the mind of God, your faith is unbreakable. It's supernatural. It's a supernatural strength that people who have been watching me can't figure out. But if you don't know God, you're never going to understand it anyway. Which is why all the people that targeted me are threatened by me, because none of them believe in God, because they're actively trying to stop God and the second coming, because they're the Antichrist movement. So, yeah. So anyway, so I'm going to go and make another coffee now, and I'm going to sit with God. I'm in so much pain. Remember the other day when I said, did you hear that? That was my back cracking. Yeah, I've got a little niggle in my back and that, so I'm just sitting here right now with a hot water bottle in my back. If I could have a bath, I don't have a bath, I have a shower. I really, really need a bath because the hot water and that helps my back and my stomach. But yeah, so I'm going to go and have another coffee and sit with the Lord and wait to see what other trouble I'm going to cause. They must see me post up and think, oh, Jesus, what's she exposing now? But I don't care. Because if I'm going down fighting. I don't care. Nobody is protecting the king. Nobody is defending Vladimir Putin. Nobody's doing anything to stop these people from hurting our veterans and protecting children. And it's like, well, I have the power, so I'm going to do something. I'm doing it on my own, but I'm doing something. And I seem to be making waves, which is another reason for the dream. I'm making waves. The king's finally woken up. I'm just, once I know that Starmer's actually been arrested, then that's when I know Britain gets the reset. I know they're panicking, saying, but when he goes, what are we going to do, blah, 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 but there's no need to panic. All you got to do is just have another election, but make sure that you vet the people running for Prime Minister. Nigel Farage is in the pocket of Donald Trump, and basically if you're going to the things like Davos and you're in the World Economic Forum, you can't be trusted other than William, because they dragged him in as part of the conspiracy. They set all this stuff up to bring the royal family in so that they could tarnish their reputation and make the people lose trust in them. They were pawns. But he's changed his policy so many times. He's no longer a man of the people. He's too much in the back pocket of foreign forces. And when you are cowtailing to the interest of foreign forces and foreign investors, you are not a man of the people, and you are not a person who is there to serve the king and the country. I have no interest in, as a politician, I'd be the rudest politician, most antisocial politician in the world as Prime Minister, because I wouldn't be wanting to deal with anybody that I knew had targeted my king. I wouldn't be dealing with America, I wouldn't be dealing with Israel, I wouldn't be dealing with France and Germany. The businesses, yes, but not the politicians. The Zelensky and Trump wouldn't dare try and come on a state visit, because I'd have them arrested the second their planes landed. People like Elon Musk that have like British citizenship and like dual passports and that, I'd revoke them. Soon as these people landed, they'd be arrested. If they were on the Epstein list, they'd be arrested and investigated. I'd be brutal. Which is why I'd need all my military boys and Secret Service and that watching over Great Britain, because they'd all be coming after me. I'd be like Vladimir Putin. He's got like, 40-something assassination attempts under his belt. I've got 4. So I'm catching up. But oh my God, would I work with Russia? I'd work with so many of them for the purposes of business and that. All I would care about is making as much money for Great Britain as possible, legitimately. And I know how to do it too. Because with my business plan, you see my business mind, my Taurian mind. I know how to do it too. People would be so happy. They'd be so sad when I walked away from politics. I really think I'd be a hard act to follow because I don't tolerate injustice. I don't tolerate weakness. I can't stand it. Oh, yeah, but I only did it because, People that moan and complain that don't do anything about making change. I don't like weakness in people. Same with the men in my life that have tried to have a relationship with me. Oh, we'll do this and I'm going to be this, and then like months, days, weeks, years later, still nothing. Nah. So, anyway, so I'm going to go and have my coffee. I'll put a link in the description box below. Happy Sabbath. If you believe in God or not, use today to focus on all the wonderful things that you have coming to you that is a privilege, like life and the sun coming up and the birds and the trees and the flowers and the bees and the stars up above and the thing called love. So I'm half nervously laughing because I know something's coming out of left field that is going to take me by surprise, that I'm being told is coming to prepare myself for, that I think is going to have either news vans turning up on my doorstep or where the world is about to know my name and my face because I'm going to be on the news. I was always told that. I was always told that's where it was going to end, but I was like, I don't want to go into politics. I don't like politicians. I just, oh my God. But then at the same time, it's like if it has to be done, I don't know. I don't know what they have planned for me. It might just be that the king wakes up, everyone gets arrested, it all gets shut down, built up again, and people are like, "That's because you woke the king up, Debbie." And then people are like, "She woke the king up, yay!" And then I get to move and build my school. I don't know. I'm not even going to try and guess. All I know, I'm too scared to decipher it. I could decipher the codes if I want to, but I'm too scared. So I'm just going to say bugger it and just take that running jump off the cliff and see if I can figure out how to fly. I'm being kicked out the nest, I think. Of yeah, I just something's coming. I can feel it. And I keep seeing the Queen in that dream, the portrait where she turned and looked at me and said, "Welcome home." I said to the boys when I asked them, should I run for Prime Minister? I said, but I don't want to live in London. It's crowded and 10 Downing Street's evil. And my son said, well, just cleanse it. Just change it and cleanse it. He said, you know what you're doing? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I suppose. Which is how that dream with the Queen ended, me cleansing 10 Downing Street. So, good Lord, something's coming. And I'm being told, get ready. A sea of change is coming and I'm being swept up in it. And I'm being told, get ready. So, I've done something. All I ask is that before my face is plastered on newspapers and TV screens and news channels, is that I get my teeth fixed first. Because my teeth are the only remnant that I have left other than getting my boys back into my fold and to the comfort of my bosom, my ample bosom, is my teeth. And they're not horrific. I've got perfectly white teeth. It's just because of the drugs that he was pumping into my system and the vomiting and all of that, fillings fell out. And yeah, so I want to be able to stand. I want to be able to stand tall with a big beaming smile. I've earned the right to be able to smile, a big wide smile. I'd even do it standing in my jammies as long as my teeth are sorted. So, right, I'm going to go. So, have a wonderful Sunday, everyone. And if you believe in God, sit with Him and pray. Get your Bible out, read some of your favourite verses. And if you don't, sit with your ancestors and embrace yourself in nature and count all your blessings and be grateful for the things that you do have. Because life is a blessing, life is a gift that we take for granted. And it's only until we're faced with the adversities that we're faced with right now that you appreciate the small things in life, like being able to get up and wake up every day with a roof over your head. That man that died, that veteran that died, is a reminder of how grateful we should be that he was the martyr for the cause and not us. So whatever happens, I will be moving forward now, specifically with him in mind. And whatever we're about to do together, for all of those that are about to come on board, whoever you are out there, we'll do it for people like him. We'll do it for the ones who are on the battlefields in Ukraine and Russia and all that, because they've been forced into an impossible situation by countries and leaders outside of their own control. We need to be grateful for people like Vladimir Putin, because he's the reason why Great Britain is not at war. He's the reason why hell hasn't broken loose in Great Britain yet, as much as what Starmer's trying to. He's the one keeping the king safe, whether people know it or not. He has carried the burden of responsibility on his shoulders of multiple nations, because he's the biggest threat to standing in between whether the king falls or not. Without Vladimir Putin standing in front of the king would fall too. Vladimir Putin and I, that's why I call him my work husband. We're both doing our bit to keep the king safe and keep the king alive, because they're trying, and he's lost a lot. They've taken a lot from him, billions and billions and billions, hundreds of billions they've frozen, they've stolen from him in Ukraine, and he's trying to hold it all together while making sure that our king is safe from his own government. And I'm doing my bit as well, and we've both taken losses for King Charles. So I hope I see the day, if I am standing outside 10 Downing Street giving my speech to the nation to tell them about the changes that the king is allowing me to bring through. This is a hypothetical, obviously. I want Vladimir Putin standing by my side when I do it, because he deserves the recognition as well. So, once again, I've said it, I'm going to go. I'm going to have my coffee, because I'm getting hungry now. I shall speak to you later. Hold your head up high. Have faith. Don't ever lose faith. Faith is the difference between standing strong and falling to your knees. If you don't have faith in a God and you don't have faith in your government, have faith in me, because I've got you. I got your back. I'll speak to you later. Ka kite anō. Mwah.